On this FBI message, the Defense Department did not or would not provide Congressman Schiff any 1947 documents from the Roswell Army Airfield. The excuse was that messages sent from the Roswell base in 1947 had somehow been destroyed without authorization. That DoD reply so angered Congressman Schiff that he held a news conference in Washington, D.C. to express his terrible frustration. Schiff told reporters, quote, "The GAO report states that the outgoing messages from Roswell Army Airfield for this period of time were destroyed without proper authority," unquote. And those are the messages that would have shown how military officials in Roswell were explaining to their superiors exactly what was happening. Congressman Schiff said, quote, "It is my understanding that these outgoing messages were permanent records which should never have been destroyed. The GAO could not identify who destroyed the messages or why," unquote. Schiff also added, quote, "At least this effort caused the Air Force to acknowledge that the crash vehicle was no weather balloon. That explanation of a weather balloon never fit the fact of high military security used at the time." Tonight, I have information from former New Mexico State Representative Andy Kistner to share about why President Harry Truman allegedly authorized a 1947 classified executive order and extension of the War Powers Act that would enforce a strict cover-up of all matters related to an extraterrestrial presence on this planet. For several years, one of Andy Kistner's most important sources was a high-ranking officer at White Sands Proving Ground who died in 1998. And here is what that officer told Kistner were national security reasons to deny the ET presence. Government insiders saw radar and photographs in 1947 which showed advanced aerial devices which easily paced our rapidly moving V-2 rocket tests. Government insiders were shocked that an advanced beam technology can lift up and lower animals and people. Government insiders concluded at least one non-human agenda is to harvest genetic material from animals and people transported by that beam technology. And government insiders learned that the non-human intelligence has and will retaliate if attacked. In 1994, I received this unpublished book manuscript entitled "Peculiar Phenomenon: Early United States Efforts to Collect and Analyze Flying Discs" by then New Mexico State Rep. J. Andrew Kistner from Las Cruces in Donna Ana County. He felt that the public should know what he had been hearing from insiders at White Sands and the Naval Research Lab. The facts were, he said, that UFOs had been seen and photographed during V-2 rocket launches and that anti-aircraft artillery was deliberately fired at the discs. Here is an excerpt from Andy Kistner's still unpublished manuscript. Quote, "The most highly classified episode in American military history began with a series of events in May of 1947 that ultimately resulted in the crash and recovery of at least 2, probably 3, and possibly 4 extraterrestrial flying discs. This was accomplished by deliberate anti-aircraft artillery fire and/or use of surface-to-air missiles by units of the United States Army National Anti-Aircraft Artillery School at Fort Bliss, Texas, and the United States Army Air Force fighters based at Alamogordo Army Airfield at Alamogordo, New Mexico. The well-publicized Roswell, Corona, New Mexico flying disc was one of these, shot down by us. The U.S. Army's actions either caused or were a response to offensive overt acts initiated by flying discs themselves. Whatever flying discs are, they are not defenseless. Their special weapons were, and even now are, unconventional. Flying discs were immediately defined by the United States military in 1947 as, quote, "an enemy weapons system," unquote, official. To secure flying disc crash sites and to collect debris, a T-force, that's capital T-force, was assigned. And in a 1992 book entitled Science with a Vengeance, T-force was described as, quote, a specialized U.S. military unit assigned a mission to take, hold, and defend a specialized enemy facility or a specific piece of enemy equipment possessing high scientific or technical value as defined by Office of Scientific Research and Development and the Joint Chiefs of Staff during World War II. The T-force was always assigned to that which was defined as enemy. Andrew Kistner said that, quote, once collected, the foreign discs were processed and analyzed for Dr. Vannevar Bush, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff's Research and Development Board, shown in this photograph shaking hands with America's first Secretary of Defense, James Forrestal, after Dr. Bush was sworn in as chairman of the Research and Development Board on September 30th, 1947. That would have been only 3 months after at least 3 discs came down in the state of New Mexico. Dr. Bush was also director of the Office of Scientific Research and Development that cooperated with the Atomic Energy Commission's Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory and its now famous Z division at Sandia Base that was also linked to research and back engineering of extraterrestrial technology. Representative Kistner also was told that, quote, custody of flying discs was permanently vested in civilian authorities by classified presidential executive order in July 1948, and the reason would be to keep the public from having any official access to what was happening as long as it was put in a civilian category. That civilian authority was the Atomic Energy Commission and its national laboratories. AEC participated with the Department of Defense's Air Force Systems Command, the Naval Research Laboratory, and the Research and Development Board of the Secretary of Defense, also established in late July 1947. The Research and Development Board coordinated all scientific inquiry, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff provided military support, and the National Security Council, newly formed in August of 1947, served as overall program coordinator, and it is my understanding that to this day, that the batons passing through the Majestic 12 group has always been through some kind of very compartmentalized section inside the National Security Council. Quote, it should be noted that within these major institutions, the investigations and retrieval operations of flying discs were and are today classified in compartments that are very small. It is not the entire institution that has knowledge. Rather, it is only specialized components within much larger complexes that have need-to-know access about the non-human presence, unquote. In his manuscript, Andy Kistner picked out the afternoon of May 15, 1947, as the first deliberate American effort to shoot down a flying disc. V-2 rocket tests at White Sands were underway, and that day, one was launched to an altitude of 84 miles. It carried instruments to measure cosmic and solar radiation temperatures, ionospheric measurements, and photo experiments for the Naval Research Lab. The V-2 rocket crashed east of the impact zone on the outskirts of Alamogordo, New Mexico. And about that V-2 crash, here is what the May 16, 1947 Las Cruces Sun News article headlined, quote, Lieutenant Colonel Harold